All right, hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about Raymond Carver's A Serious Talk. This is a story that's loaded with meaning, even though it's only 8 pages long, and a lot of that meaning comes from the choices that the writer uses with every word that he makes. He's a minimalist, so just about everything has significance here, and one of the things we want to learn is how to address that significance by understanding, well, the word choices. So we're going to start on page 1 here, and I'll get rid of my mug for the minute. We're going to start with something as simple as the names. Vera's car was there, no others, but Bert gave thanks for that. Vera, Spanish, la verdad, truth, right? Bert likes to set fire to everything, burnt, right? Vera, on the phone with the other man, uses the name Charlie, char, C-H-A-R, burn, lie, L-I-E, burn, lie. So there is already something brewing here, a juxtaposition of truth and falsehood, and maybe even of heat and cold. Those themes are going to be more important as the story develops. Vera puts the vodka in the freezer. Vera is not open emotionally. She won't communicate. Bert is burnt, passionate, and controlling. He imagined her robe setting fire and being the hero that he wants to be. But however you view it, this is a problematic relationship that lacks communication, and that is one of the main themes in Carver. Now, Carver is going to juxtapose or set against one another some themes here that will show you, I think, that the relationship itself may have had potential and failed. You will be the judge of this. But it is the holidays, right? And he'd come on Christmas Day to visit his wife and children. Good statement in and of itself. Vera had warned him beforehand. She told him the score. She said he had to be out by 6 o'clock because her friend and his children were coming for dinner. Well, this would unsettle anybody, but especially the overly passionate Bert. But let's look at a juxtaposition that occurs here. It's Christmas. It's supposed to be a time of family togetherness, of joy, of reflection, of warmth, if you will, in the context of being together. Yet, he has to be out by 6 o'clock. You're also going to notice 6 logs in the fireplace, 6 pies, 6, 6, 6. So we have another juxtaposition here. Christmas, holiness, and hell. Heaven and hell. What the relationship could be, what the relationship is. You'll remember that the ashtray they got from a bearded potter on the mall in Santa Clara, but it's a dish. In other words, they got this from Christ, which, bearded potter. It's a Christian symbol. Carver's not religious, but he's saying there is a potential for the relationship that never came to fruition, and instead of being a dish from which they would share sustenance, it's an ashtray in which they destroy things. Now, I'll also, let me show you my face again here real quick, talk about different ways that you can create meaning by looking at symbols. Weather is always important in literature. Stormy weather is a harbinger of bad things. Good weather means good temperaments, good times, good sailing. Imagery is important to look at too. And in this particular story, we have a lot of imagery that deals with circles, and that which deals with convex objects. So for instance, we have the ashtray, which is a circle, and then the cigarette that goes in it, right? These are very masculine and feminine symbols, and here they use to show the relationship and how it's trying to be controlled on Bert's end. Stick his cigarette in the ashtray very forcefully, or cut the phone cord with a knife, right? Very masculine, toxic masculine behavior on Bert's end. But there's also other things. There's the Christmas wreath on the door, right? There is the bicycle fork, right? And again, when you look at these, this would be female anatomy, this would be male anatomy. You want to see how they interplay with one another and how they help you understand the character's failures in this particular case. But they're all valid ways of looking at this failed relationship. So we have the heaven and hell imagery, the Christmas and the 666. We have the names, hot and cold. We have the cold and hot personalities. We have the masculine and feminine traits that they're exhibiting. And one question you might ask, and this is not something that you have to solve necessarily, but to what degree are they playing roles that are unhealthy? Is there any way for them to be better people in general? This story doesn't show it, but a way for them, but I'm wondering what you think the potential of the relationship was from the beginning. All right, so going back, okay, we know that this relationship has affected the children negatively. Whatever you call it, it's not healthy. For Christmas, he gets a gift certificate from his wife Vera, from his daughter a matching comb, and from his son a ballpoint pen. I would hardly say that those are gifts that show warmth and care. Okay. Now Bert is kind of establishing his ground on page 163. He liked it where he was. He liked it in front of the fireplace, a glass in his hand, his house, his home. Again, possession, very male dominating. Then Vera went into the kitchen, etc. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about the circular and the convex objects. The front door was permanently locked the night since the key had broken off inside the lock, right? There was a wreath on the patio door. So again, we have this control, key goes into the lock, it breaks off, right? That brokenness is a sign of their broken relationship. I'm going to skip down a little bit more, okay? And we see some of the other dark and negative imagery about where the relationship was gone. This should be a time of sustenance of food. The kids have been staring at the tree, but what they see is a turkey carcass on a platter in the center of the dining room. The leathery remains in a bed of parsley as if in a horrible nest. And then a cone of ash, again, burning, burned out, destroyed things filled the fireplace. There were some empty Shasta cola cans in there too, and of course Shasta is a volcano, right? It's covered in snow. So again, you have the juxtaposition of heat and cold, which cold is Vera, Bert is the heat, and his heat and her cold go to extremes. We have the vodka in the freezer, and here the pilot light, these juxtapositions again of heat and cold on 165. The pilot light was out again, clearly representation of the relationship. She was at the stove trying to get the gas going under the pan of water, but she's cold and she can't do it. He says, don't burn yourself, don't catch yourself on fire. And then he considered her robe catching fire and saving her, his hero perspective that he wants to assert on the world. And then he asks for a drink, and there's some vodka in the freezer. She's keeping everything cold on her end. At the bottom of page 165, she said, Jesus, Bert, what do you want to talk about? And that one word, Jesus, is not just put there willy-nilly. It's a choice, right? We go back to the bearded potter on the mall in Santa Clara from whom they got the ashtray. It is Christmas time, but they have lost all the significance of these days. Now, it ends instead with, I have a flute lesson at 1 o'clock. Flute being a very phallic symbol, okay? And as we get to page 166, he says, are you still taking flute? In other words, are you still having out relationships other than the relationship you have with me? And this is going to get even worse when he talks about, are you smoking colored cigarettes? And that's just worse in the sense of his paranoia and his control-driven personality. Here on the middle of 166, we have the reference to the ashtray. The ashtray was not really an ashtray. This relationship did not have to be the burned out remnants of humanity that it is. It was a big dish of stoneware they bought from a bearded potter on the mall in Santa Clara, a Christ figure, if you will. He rinsed it out and dried it. He put it back on the table, and then he put a cigarette out in it, right? Again, control. And at the end of the story, that will figure as a prominent image there too. So we know that Vera has a date. She's been on the phone with somebody. At the top of 168, he tells her, Vera, it's like saying, truly, this is why I came. It's Christmas. It's why I came. It's the day after Christmas. Christmas has come and gone. I don't even want to see another one. What about me? You think I look forward to the holidays? These are two damaged people for sure. And then the phone rings, and she leaves, right, to pick it up. And then he takes the receiver. He hears Vera pick it up, and he grabs a knife, and he moved to the phone, doubled the cord, sawed through it without any trouble at all. He examined the ends of the cord. He shoved the phone back into its corner behind the roasting pan, right? Okay, burning everything, stopping communication. This is Bert's M.O. And she came in and said, "What's going on?" And then, right, "I'm going to call the police if you don't get out of here now." So I'm just going to read these last two paragraphs and just have you think about what they mean. He left through the patio door. He was not certain, but he thought he had proved something. He thought he had made something clear. Well, I don't know, not through these power games. The thing was, they really had to have a serious talk, which didn't happen now and might not happen in the future. There were things they needed talking about, important things that need to be discussed. They'd talk again, maybe after the holidays were over and things got back to normal. He'd tell her the goddamn ashtray was a goddamn dish, for example. He stepped around the pie in the driveway and got back into his car. He started the car and put it into reverse. It was hard managing until he put the ashtray down. So one thing I would just ask you is, he could not manage until he put the ashtray down. He could not move on with his life until maybe he let go of the relationship. But I'll let you guys think about that and interpret that on your own. So there's clearly a lot of meaning here. I'll end this screencast now and share it with you. Again, these are just things to think about for now, and to perhaps include, in ways that you read future texts and that you're just looking for different symbols and numbers and things like that. They don't always come to fruition, but in Carver they do. All right, goodbye for now, everybody.